Peter Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Is there any objection? There being none, the consideration of the recommendation of the Committee on Foreign Affairs is in order.
Mr. President, I move that your chairman, Senator Panfilo M. Lacson, of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, be recognized.
Senator Lacson is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, this morning, this representation, being the chairman of your Committee on Foreign Affairs, presided over probably the shortest public hearing to recommend to this honorable commission to give its consent to the nomination of Senator Alan Peter S. Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs. In the spirit of consistency, I will now deliver the shortest sponsorship speech. Thus, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, it is my distinct honor and privilege to move that the Commission give its consent to the nomination of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
There is a motion for the Commission. What is Majority Leader?
Yes, to second the motion.
Second.
I call on our Vice Chair, Congressman Zamora.
Vice Chairman, Representative Zamora is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when his name was announced as the new Secretary of Foreign Affairs, a friend of mine texted me if the nominee will be able to transition from Alan Peter the loquacious to Alan Peter the tight-lipped. To the casual observer, my friend's query has some basis, as do his doubts. The nominee, Mr. Chairman, has a well-deserved reputation for ruffling feathers, while his new calling as chief diplomat is all about smoothing them. Or as someone has put it more colorfully, it is the business of handling the porcupine without making it raise its quills. Those who think that the nominee will telegraph the country's negotiating points in 140-character blasts on Twitter do not know the person well. In his 25 years in public service, Secretary Cayetano has always played the role and performed the job required of him. He has shown this versatility on the floors of Congress and in the Senate, where he has served both majority and minority causes with efficiency, or in the basketball court, where he can shift from defense to offense effortlessly. When a job calls for a full-throated defense of a cause, there is no better advocate than Alan Peter Cayetano. But if it requires circumspection, Alan Peter Cayetano knows how to proceed with caution. In his new post, Mr. Chairman, trust me, he will know when to press our country's position loudly and when to present it in a low-key manner. He can think on his feet, and he will always have a good head on his shoulders. He has his lawyer's training to go over the fine print and to see the small details. And you have seen this in full display during the televised Senate hearings. Thus, he will know if the country is taken seriously or taken for a ride. There is also one unheralded talent the nominee has, which will put him in good stead in his new assignment, and that is the knack to forge a consensus and the ability to build alliances. These, plus others, are the traits that will make him a respected and a responsible ambassador of 105 million Filipinos. When it comes to the national territory, Mr. Chairman, he will be steadfast in defending what is ours. To our OFWs, he will be the compassionate provider of service and of care and succor to those in need. I have this personal commitment, Mr. Chairman, that no OFW in distress will be left behind, where we both share the belief that as important as treaties are signed with other nations are the lifelines that we throw to our own people abroad. The red carpet that he will roll out not just for our compatriots who toil abroad, but also for investors who would like to do business here will be brought, so that our best and the brightest need not leave their loved ones just so they can earn a living. Mr. Chairman, he will have his hands full, serving our country and selling what the Philippines can offer at the same time. There is no need for him to pivot, for our policy has always been amity for all and animosity toward none. In all of these, he will articulate our positions in a manner that will draw respect not only to himself, but also to the country that he represents, for such is the main benchmark where our diplomats are measured. On this, Mr. Chairman, it is without reservation that I say that this man who will fly our flag will pass the test with flying colors. Mr. Chairman, I am honored to endorse and second the confirmation of Alan Peter Cayetano as our new Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. President, next to second nomination would be Senator Alan.
Senator Rector, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues, I stand with you today in endorsing the demotion of our dear colleague from a Senator of the Republic to its top diplomat. He's 19 years in Congress, 9 years in the bigger house, and 10 in the better house have prepared him for the grueling job ahead. I am saying that with authority because I believe that all the things he needed to learn in diplomacy, he learned in these two chambers. So much so that should he opt to ape his ate and bike to his new office, there will be no need for training wheels. The current public image of the nominee is that of the President's loyal defender, his trusty ally, and devoted confidant. He willingly takes the things meant for him, returning fire when needed. That insofar as the President's image is concerned, he is the true commander of the guards. If Mr. Bongo is the body man who waits on the President's hand and foot, he is the body vest that cushions the blows, which is not an easy job in a land where the President is the national punching bag. But it will be wrong to portray him simply as a partisan. What should not be forgotten is that he is foremost a patriot and a professional. He has logged a quarter of a century of public service. He is a lawyer, reportedly the most astute in a family of accomplished compañeros y compañeras. In Congress, he had done the required tours, which exposed him to all facets of policy making, whether as a majority stalwart, tenaciously pushing administration bills, or as an opposition leader who can be stubborn in his fiscalizing. He has chaired major committees from education, where key reform measures were passed during his watch, to foreign affairs, where he, to cite a few of his prodigious outputs, shepherded the ratification of major treaties like the Paris Climate Accord and bills like extending the period of validity of passports. In each of these, he puts on full public display the skills required to get things done. The tenacious curiosity in going to the bottom of scams when he was at the helm of the Blue Ribbon Committee. the charm to convince his colleagues to get behind measures as a majority or deputy leader, the dogged cross-examination skills that ferret out the truth and close down hiding places of lies. And in all of these, the eloquence to articulate his position in a manner that cuts down his adversary and makes converts out of those who doubt. In his new calling, I know that he will deploy the right mix of talent and tact that will effectively advance the Republic's interests. And this reinvention is evident when he declared himself a no fan of microphone diplomacy, which is a bad pass for a politician who has wielded a megaphone all his public life. If in these troubled times what we need is a Secretary of Foreign Affairs with the knack of making a point without making an enemy, then we will find that man in Alan Peter Cayetano. It is thus with pleasure that I endorse his confirmation as Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next to seconds, Senator Subiri.
Senator Subiri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable Chairman Aquilino Papuri. Third, esteemed colleagues in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I have the honor and privilege to stand before this honorable commission to co-sponsor the confirmation of the appointment of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Prior to his appointment, Senator, now Secretary Cayetano, was the youngest councilor of what used to be the municipality of Taguig. After just one term, he was elected as the vice mayor of the same municipality, and thereafter representative of the Lone District of the now city of Taguig for 3 consecutive terms. He joined his older sister, former Senator, now Congresswoman Pia Cayetano, in the upper chamber of Congress when he was elected as Senator of this Republic in 2007. I have been his batchmate ever since, with both of us joining the lower house in 1998 and the Senate also in the same year. He is a notable legislator, known for his crusade against corruption and thrust towards transparency and accountability and good governance. Mr. Chairman, to be the Secretary of Foreign Affairs takes courage, determination, and conviction to be able to represent the paramount interests of the Filipino people and the country before the international community, seeking to promote international cooperation. A representative who will not easily succumb to the demands of the majority, one who can stand by his own principles. Secretary Cayetano's impressive academic record, extensive knowledge in legislation, and unequivocal dedication to both humanitarian and public services make him more than qualified for the position of Secretary of Foreign Affairs. That is why it's with great honor I'm seconding the motion of my good friend Alan Peter Cayetano for the confirmation of this commission as Secretary of Foreign Affairs. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
The last to second, Mr. Senate President, is Senator J.B. Harrison.
Senator Harrison is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. In this day and age of globalization and fast-paced technology, we would want the best people to represent the Philippines in the international stage, to handle with dignity our diplomatic relations with other countries. Mr. President, I believe Senator Alan Peter Cayetano embodies these characteristics and is qualified to become our Foreign Affairs Secretary. As he is a patriot, has relevant work experience in governance and legislation, is multi-awarded, relatively young, and can passionately represent and defend the country in the diplomatic community. Senator Cayetano's track record also represents a youthful and relevant experience in public service, as he was among the youngest officials in the sphere. At 39, he was recognized for exemplary work in government and public service when he was awarded as one of the top 10 outstanding young men in 2010. Mr. President, we may not always be in the opposite, on the same side of the political fence all the time, but this I can say that our respect for each other has always been there. To my colleague, Senator Cayetano, huwag ka na sanang masenti. I'm not referring to an initial, but huwag ka na sanang masentiment. I know it's a sentimental period for you because I know that you love this August Chamber daily, but at the same time you have to face new challenges as Secretary of Foreign Affairs. So, Mr. President, I have always told this colleague to be bold and always take into account always the welfare of the Filipino people, and his appointment will surely be a positive development to the diplomatic community. Mabuhay and Godspeed.
So, the seconds defeated the intention of the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. For a quick confirmation. Anyway, is there any objection? Let's amend the motion. The motion is that for the Commission to give its consent to the appointment of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The Commission hereby gives its consent to the appointment of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Go for 1 minute suspension. Congratulations.
Upon confirmation, then we can subject to other